All right, guys, I have 8:30 in the morning. We start on time in this group. And today I want to go over some other objections. You guys all got those. And these are probably going to be the objections for next week. So I want to try to get ahead of having objection handlings in the group, having you working on objections that were in the past on the objection handling schedule. So I do want to start everything out as just reminding everyone as the fundamentals of my belief system when it comes to getting better. Number one is you can make up in skill where you lack in numbers. This is really important for people who are new or newer to the business or don't have a large pipeline or don't have a whole lot of skill set behind them. You just need to do more numbers. You just need to talk to more people. But the reason why we have this group is so that you can increase your skill set so you don't have to talk to so many people. So you can make up in skill where you lack in numbers, but if you're new, you can make up in numbers where you lack in skill. Two different sides of the coin. The second one is the person who asks the questions control the conversation. That's something that we need to work on fundamentally. Is not telling is not selling. You are not going to change a person's position. You are not going to change a person's perception or belief pattern by telling them something. The only way that you can change a person's position or belief system is to help them come to that conclusion by themselves. It's kind of like herding sheep. And the only way you can do that is by asking questions. So that's number two. Number three, I just said this. You cannot change a person's perception or belief. Only they can. Number four, you don't have a lead until you know the why and the when. This is true in everything. You don't have a lead. You only have a prospect if you don't know their why and when. You don't qualify them to an actual lead until you know their why and when, their motivation and how hot that motivation is, right? What's the temperature of it? If you have a prospect and you ask them, why do you want to sell? And they're like, oh, the market's hot. I just want to see what I can get. Low motivation. But if you have a prospect that says that they have to start a job in 45 days, starting a new job, that's their why, that's the motivation. 45 days is their when, that's the temperature gauge, right? You get someone who says, I just want to test the market. And if I don't sell it, if I don't get what I want, I'm just going to never sell it. There's nothing worse than having no listings than having a listing that's never going to sell. One of the reasons for that is because you have the time, effort, and resources that go into it. But the other reason is that it's your fault that it didn't sell. Regardless of the market conditions, that seller is going to look at you. You're the professional. You took the listing. And no matter what happens, they're going to blame you. So it's a lose-lose situation. So you don't have a lead until you know your why and when. And when in doubt, mirror the objection as a question. This is a technique that I use on the daily. Even if I have a rebuttal to the objection, depending on where I'm at in the conversation, depending on my rapport level, I will always repeat what somebody says in the frame of the question, and then I'll just be quiet. Because when you're in a situation, do you remember a time when you were in a situation and then there was an awkward silence and you're thinking to yourself, is it my turn to talk? You want to initiate that after you hit a question. If you don't have a rebuttal, if you don't know which path you're going to go down, at least you have some time to process the direction you're going to want to go, or you can actually kind of herd the conversation into the direction you want. So does anyone have any questions on that? I can't see anyone. Hold on. I think I have to stop my share real quick, guys. And then I have to move my window over to here. And then I got to re-share it with you guys so I can see everybody on the frame. Okay, so we got Margaret. Welcome, Margaret. Sarah, hi, we talked. Cecilia, Twinson, good morning. Lynn Blair's on. Lynn Blair's been with us for a while.
Good morning.
Kate, good morning. Ivy, Adrian, good. I like seeing people. I have this phobia that nobody's going to show up and I'm going to be doing this by myself. The nice thing is I can talk and I have a lot of things to talk about. So I'm glad that you guys showed up. So welcome. Let me go back and I think I'm sharing my screen again. Cecilia, shake your head yes if you can see my screen.
I can see it, yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, guys, so next screen. I want to work with you guys on the blow off. A lot of people, if you're talking to people, you're getting the blow off, right? This is people that are saying, will you call me back next week? You know, I'm at work when you call me back. I'm going to the gym. I'm busy. Here's the truth of the matter is, and I want you guys to write this down. People make time for things that are important, right? When somebody doesn't have time for you, don't take it personal. What they're saying is that based on what the scenario is, they don't have time for it. They might be sitting on the couch eating potato chips, and someone calls up with an unrecognized number, expired listing, and they've already talked to 20 people. You know what? They don't have time for it, right? They're going to blow you off. And I'll tell you what, no matter what you say, until you can actually rebuttal that blow off and get them to a point where they're at least going to be receptive of time, everything that you're going to do from that point on is just going to tick them off, annoy them even more, and make it that much harder to build rapport, right? Has anyone here, by a raise of hands, ever had a situation where somebody is blowing you off, you just kept on talking, you just kept on closing, and they just shut down, right? They're just like yes and no answers. Does that only happen to me, right?
No.
Happened to Cecilia? Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's what we do. Number one, Cecilia, I can see your camera, so let's role play. So you're going to be the prospect. I'm going to be the agent. So ring, ring.
Okay. Hello.
Hi, Cecilia.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, so Cecilia, so guys, I did an assumptive opening. Like, I'm not calling anyone if I don't know what their name is, right? So I said, hi, Cecilia. We've talked about this. There are 3 options. She says, hi, how are you? Hey, Cecilia, this is Brett over here at Keller Williams. How are you doing?
I'm very good, and you?
I'm doing really good, Cecilia. Hey, the reason I'm calling is because your home came up as a expired listing a few weeks ago. I've been trying to reach you, haven't had much success. Have you been getting my voicemails?
I did, but I have a lot of people calling me, and quite frankly, I'm overwhelmed.
Okay, now give me the objection that you're like, I'm kind of busy. Can you call me back? Give me that objection.
And I'm busy at this time. Can you call me back, or maybe tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that you're busy, and I'm sure you're getting a lot of calls. Could I schedule a time with you for, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes tomorrow? I could call you at 1 o'clock. Could I schedule that time with you to just reach back out and talk to you a little bit about your house?
Tomorrow, I could, but after 5 o'clock.
After 5 o'clock? Okay, so could I schedule a time at 5 o'clock to call you then?
Yes.
Just for about 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, terrific. So guys, here's why I did this. We are getting inundated by sales messages. We know if it's an expired list, look, the lower quality of lead, the fewer people that are calling, right? If you're circle prospecting, if you're calling around listings and sales, chances are you're not going to be stepping over 10 other agents that are calling on the same day. But when the quality of the lead goes up, which in our business is expired listings for sell by owners, probate, divorce, like there are certain things that happen in a person's life that could cause them to want to sell their home. When the quality of the lead goes up, so does the competition, so does the number of calls. So here's what I want to do. There was a few ways on the micro commitment that Cecilia could have gone. Now, if it's a legitimate blow off, meaning that she really didn't have time, then chances are she's going to schedule a time with me, right? Just like what she did. If it's a blow off before anybody ever commits to anyone, I call this a micro commitment. I'm asking you to set aside 5 minutes in scheduling a time. You are giving me permission to call back. You are giving me, we are setting a physical appointment that you're agreeing to, right? So there's a few different options that could go down. Now, if they're legitimately really, really busy, they'll just say, yeah, that's fine. But if they're not, before somebody naturally commits to something, I want you guys to think about this from your perspective. Before you commit to anything, you want to know what it's about. So what I would do as Cecilia, I want you to come back and I'm going to say, can I schedule a time? And then you're going to say, well, what is this about? Right? So Cecilia, can I schedule a time with you then at 5 o'clock to call you back? Would that be okay? 5 minutes?
Well, what is it about that you want to tell me?
You know, that's a really great question. Look, the reason why I'm calling, now she gave me permission to give her my elevator pitch, right? And typically here's my belief system. 90% of the people that you call that answer their phone are not busy. Otherwise, they wouldn't have answered the phone. I can tell you with absolute certainty, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to agree with me, I don't answer the phone if I'm super busy. If I'm walking into an appointment in like 15 minutes, I'm preparing for it, I'm not answering the phone, especially if it's unidentified, right? It is our culture, it is normal to get voicemails, right? So when you answer the phone, you're not busy. I always send people to the voicemail. A lot of you guys, if you call me, I don't recognize the number, I leave a voicemail. And that's why at the beginning of this, I asked you in my opening, I used the reference point. Hey, Cecilia, I left you a few messages over the last few weeks, haven't heard back from you, subliminally giving them a guilt trip. I haven't heard back from you, so I wanted to follow up. Here's why I'm calling, right? Remember, whenever you're calling, no matter if it's somebody you know or don't know, they want to know who and why, the very first. Who's calling me? What the heck do they want? So you've got to satisfy that curiosity before you move on, right? So anytime you come up with a blow off, go for the micro commitment. Don't try to spar with them. You don't have a level of rapport until you don't want to spar with somebody when you don't have any rapport. You're going to lose, right? You don't have a dog in that fight. There is no benefit to you by annoying this person. And we know a lot of annoying real estate agents, right? Who knows? Who can tell me when you know that you're in rapport? Anyone know? This is a technique that was, I think it was shared with me a long time ago by Matthew Ferry. How do you know that you have rapport? Anyone? Okay, I'm going to tell you.
When the person likes me and is agreeing with what I say.
Almost, but that's not how you know you're in rapport. Cecilia, has there ever been a time that you met a stranger and you guys just clicked and you're like a long lost brother or sister? Has there ever been a time that happened to you?
Yes.
Okay. Now, on the other side of that coin, has there ever been a time where you've met a person and you just can't connect? You're literally wanting to chew your arm off to get out of the conversation, right? Has that ever happened to you?
Yes, and also people that can be aggressive with me.
Yes. I mean, personality styles come into it. But here's the thing. You know you're in rapport by the way that you feel, right? It's like another sense, right? We know how we feel, and if we feel awkward, they feel awkward. Now, don't be that person who thinks that you actually are in rapport with everybody and you give yourself that false sense of security that everybody just always wants to talk to you. And, there are personalities like that. It's not the norm, right? The majority of the population, they're normal people. And when you feel comfortable, chances are the other person feels comfortable, right? So you're in rapport. So until you have that feeling, and the only way you can get that feeling is having a two-way conversation, right? You can't just throw up information on them. You're having a two-way conversation, and the only way you can do that is through questions, Q&A, right? So again, the person who asks the questions controls the conversation. So that's the blow off. I want you guys to kind of work on that. Or that's how you work on a blow off, is go for a micro commitment and see how that works. Any questions on that, guys? Time check, 8:45. I have a goal to finish on time today. Number 2, I'm not interested in relisting at this time. Cecilia, that's interesting. If you don't mind me asking, remember, that's a softener. If I didn't put a softener, if I just went, that's interesting. Why do you not want to sell right now? That's very direct. Again, depending on the personality that you have, it might be okay. But people who are drivers that are very direct are only a quarter of the population, and most of them aren't at a Schedule 10, right? The volume is not up maximum. So got to throw in the softener. They might mind you asking, but by the fact of you saying, hey, if you don't mind me asking, it's going to go off softer. So if you don't mind me asking, Why do you not want to relist at this time? And then they're going to tell you. Well, now the real objection is going to come out. Well, I'm concerned about this COVID thing. I'm concerned about the election thing. I'm concerned about daylight savings. I'm concerned about, the holidays are coming up. We've already worked on the COVID thing. We've already worked on that, right? The I'm not interested in relisting is just a very slow rebuttal. It's not a low objection. It's not a real objection. It's almost more of a blow off, right? You call them up. You know what most people are going to do? I had a call yesterday, last week. And it was a guy by the name of Alexander. And he left a few messages for me, and he gave very limited information to make it sound like he was a real estate agent that was seeking out a real estate company, right? A recruiting call. And I am not a fan of people. I'm not a fan of the sheep in wolf's clothing kind of tactic, right? It annoys me. And I think a lot of people will just play things off that they're not really calling for a purpose. So I think we've gotten back past that as a culture. And I think if you try to sugarcoat things on really why you're calling, it's only going to go bad for you. And it's not going to move your talk track along. So when you get that I'm not interested in relisting at the time, they've probably had some conversations, annoying conversations that they're just, their shield is up, right? But if most people, going back to that story, when I actually called the guy back and he says, oh, well, I was asking questions, and he goes, well, we're a third party recruiting service that we do this, that, and the other. And I'm like, you know what? We do all the things in-house. Okay, thanks. Bye. He hung up on me. He hung up. I called him back. He had my attention. He had at least 30 or 60 seconds. He did not even rebuttal probably the most common rebuttal that he gets, right? Is I'm happy with what I got. And he gave up. So don't give up on this type of an objection. It's not even really an objection. It's a blow off, right? I'm not interested in relisting at the time. You know what? I totally get that. A lot of sellers are actually saying that right now. If you don't mind me asking, why is it that you're not relisting at this time? Well, why do you want to know? That's also a great question. I'm finding different reasons for most people. A lot of people are saying that it's because of COVID. A lot of people are saying it's because of economy. Some people say it's because Christmas already. Throw some humor in there. And I'm just curious, you had your home on the market before. I mean, most homeowners, I'm deflecting. I'm not attacking them front on. Most homeowners don't list their home for the sake of just listing it, right? They list it to sell it. Would you agree with that? Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, so if you don't mind me asking, and I don't mean to pry, you really do, right? That's a softener back to back. Think of it as like a double soft. It's like Charmin, right? Double softness. If you don't mind me asking, and I don't mean to pry, but you had the home for sale, why don't you want to sell it? If you wanted to do something like this, why don't you want to sell it? Because I got to tell you, I do a lot of business in this area. I got buyers that are looking for homes like yours. And I'm curious, why'd you take it off the market? Well, call me back in a month. I didn't do it. My listing agent didn't do my job, blah, 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 whatever it is, right? This is just pulling out the objection, the real objection, right? So don't ever get stupid by this one. If you get stuck, reframe it as a question. You're not interested in relisting your home at this time? No, right? You can be the broken record. Someone's going to lose, but keep doing that until you can actually get a direction. I don't need an agent. Wow. I don't need an agent. You know what, Mr. or Mrs. Seller? You're right. You don't need an agent to sell your home, but 90% of the homeowners that do need to sell their homes actually do need an agent. So if you don't mind me asking, do you just want to list your home for sale and grind out hours of things on trying to save a few extra bucks? Or do you want to sell your home in the quickest amount of time for the most money? Again, if you don't mind me asking, right? Now that's a very direct approach. I don't need an agent. Okay, you don't need an agent, right? Rephrase it as a question. You don't need an agent? No, I don't need an agent. I'm going to sell it on my own. How long have you want to sell it on your own? Terrific. So if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been trying to sell it on your own? Well, I've only been on the market for 45 days. 45 days, really? Well, typically in the market right now, the home should have been sold by now. Did you know that? No, I didn't know that. Yeah, so my question is, how much longer are you, if you don't mind me asking, how much longer are you going to continue to try this on your own until you might consider? I'm not saying will you consider, right? That's a commitment. How much time would you give it on your own until you might consider listing it with someone who has an experience selling it in this market? Now, notice how I differentiated myself from all the other agents. I don't want them just to think of listing with another agent. How much time will you wait and try and do it on your own until you might consider working with an area expert that has experience selling homes in this market? Now you've lowered the pool of agents down to this, right? So truth be told, guys, my personal point, I don't need an agent. Me personally, I don't need an agent. I've sold a lot of homes. A person that hasn't sold their home, has only bought one house in their lifetime, or maybe two houses in their lifetime, and it's like 14 years in between, absolutely they need an agent. And if you live in California, as litigious as our state is, you are my opinion that the seller who sells on their own is a fool. It's kind of like that saying, the attorney who represents themselves as a fool, has a fool for a client. Yeah, same thing. Keep in mind though, if you the higher the quality of lead, the more follow-up. You're going to have to win out on follow-up. It used to be 8 touches. Now it's like 14. So don't give up. And a touch is not just a conversation. A touch could be a written letter. A touch could be an email. A touch could be a video message. A touch could be a stop by. A touch, a touch could be a voicemail. A touch could be a text message, right? You want to put your brand in front of them. You want them to know that you're a mover and shaker. Go do a video review on the 3 most competitive homes on the market against their house or that's like their house, and send them a link to the video. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, here's a video on a home that's like yours. It's listed for this, that, and the other. It's getting a lot of activity. It just went into escrow after 5 days. Boom, right? There are certain things that you can do to differentiate yourself. I'm getting a little off track. That's how I'm always late. The price is still down 10% from I bought my home 5 years ago. Wow, you live in a market. Now, this is something that came off of when you're signing up for role playing. This is an objection that came up in one of the sections. Now, this does not exist in California. This scenario does not exist in California. I'm sure there's like that one house somewhere that it does, but I haven't seen it. But I also have to reflect that this is a North American group, so this might be the case. So here's the deal, guys. The price is still down 10% from when I bought my home 5 years ago. So I want to wait until it's 100%. Okay, I totally get that the price is down, but what would happen if prices stop rising and now they start lowering and you start going back into the hole? What would you do? Direct question. Well, what do you mean? Well, I'm just wondering, if right now we're in a very appreciating market, what would you do in a depreciating market? Would you want to sell it quickly so you can get rid of so you're not digging that hole again? Or are you going to let that hole dig all the way to the bottom to come back up? Because in the Great Recession, it took 10 years to break even. Do you want to, what would you do if it happened? Well, do you think that could happen? That's a great question. Do you have 5 minutes so I can explain my point of view? Yeah, I'm getting permission to get 5 more minutes. I don't just take 5 minutes. I get permission from them because they might not have time, right? At which time, micro commitment. Okay, well, if you have a video on it, you could send it to them. But, if you don't mind, I could schedule a time for 5 minutes. I'd love to continue this conversation, share with you, how by waiting might be a bad move if you're looking to maximize the equity in your house. Okay, perfect. Number 7, I'm going to take a break and I have no rush to sell it. Okay, guys, again, go back to the why, reframe it as a question. You're going to take a break? You really don't, you're not in a rush to sell it? No. So did you put this home on the market just to list it, or did you put it on the market to sell it? You have to have rapport before you start asking direct questions like that. Well, I put it on to sell it. But you have an indefinite amount of time to sell it? Yeah. You got, guys, you and I both know that if someone has an indefinite amount of time to sell it, they're always going to be priced above the market, right? And that's a sell. So you're going to have to ask more questions. But the first thing to do is, you could go back down to the COVID response. You have 100% probability to sell it for the fastest time and the most money, or you can gamble on a 50-50 chance that you might make a few extra bucks, you might break even, but you also might be chasing the market down. Now, guys, I'm on that camp, just so you guys know. I would never tell a seller and try to have them adopt my point of view. I ask questions, I present scenarios. You'll notice I didn't give them an option. It's either 100% probability or it's a 50-50 gamble. Right? I gave them options. I didn't leave an open end. So their mind is either going to go into one of those camps. Last one. What about the commission? That's a great question. What about the commission? Well, Sally said that she'd do it for 4%. Sally said that she'd do it for 4%. Yeah. If you don't mind me asking, what exactly is Sally going to do for 4%? Well, she's going to put on the MLS. She's going to do this, that, and the other. Oh, that's terrific. How many houses has Sally sold in your market? Do you know? No, I don't. I think she's a new agent. She's a new agent. Yeah. You really want to take one of your biggest assets and let a new agent guard your equity? Does that make a whole lot of sense? No. Okay. Well, look, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I want to be fair, right? And I believe that the compensation structure that I have provided for the services that I provide is fair. Now, if you don't mind me asking, why do you feel that what I'm charging for what I do isn't fair, right? Money questions, negotiation questions, always go back to the fair. Great. What is it, Thursday? And I will catch you guys later.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Brett.
Bye-bye.